Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I want to show you a simple trigger system today that I learned a long time ago from the late Ron Hood. It really involves only one stick. You have to have a stationary position on the ground. You can use a root or something sticking up, or you can drive a stake in the ground. You need a spring pole. But this trigger system can be adapted to lots and lots of different applications. And that's really the key to this primitive trapping, is to understand trigger systems and adapt them to what you need. You could easily use this for a trail snare. It could easily be used for a fishing type setup, or it could be used on a tripwire setup if that was your choice. I'm going to show you this trigger system right now, so stay with me. Okay, so we have a stake driven in the ground here that we just tied a piece of cordage to. There's the knot for the cordage, and this piece of cordage was about 1 foot long. Then I tied a loop in the cordage not far from the stake, and then folded it over, tied another loop in it just a couple inches away, and then I just trimmed the tag off. So I have 2 loops that are connected to the ground here. This is the basis for my trigger. Okay, straight out on the trail from where that cordage and stake are tied in, I've got a spring pole tied to another cut-off sapling here. It's just a piece of hickory sapling that I used. And I have whatever's going to be my operating cordage, whether that's going to be a snare, whether that's going to be something that's going out to the water for fishing, a trip line, whatever the case may be. And I'm going to come down about as far as I want this pole bent over. And I'm going to tie 2 more loops in a line about 6 inches apart, one a little larger than the other. I also have a piece of cordage tied to this line that slides up and down, tied on a loose knot that has a stick on it that's about 3.5 inches long, and it has chamfered off on one side at a 45 and the other end is just square. This can be any stick I pick up off the ground, and the only reason that there's a piece of string tied to it is to keep it from flying off into the woods every time this goes off and I have to make a new trigger. This is just going to retain the trigger. It has nothing to do with this trap. The loops and this stick are what make all the difference in the world. So now we're going to drag this down to where our other 2 loops are at, and I'm going to show you how to set this trap. Okay, so remember, we have part of this line is going out to wherever. Could be going out to a fishing line, could be going to a snare, could be going to a tripwire. It doesn't really matter. And I've got 2 loops here and 2 loops here. That's the key to this whole thing. So now I'm going to take this stick trigger that I have, and I'm going to connect it, first of all, here and through this first loop. That's going to create a toggle system here that's going to hold this trap in place. If I let go of this now, obviously it's going to release. And now we need to set this up, and I'm just going to move this string out of the way that we don't need here so you can not get confused by it too much. Now what we're going to do is we have this second set of loops to contend with, and this is where the trap gets set. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this loop on your working cordage, and you're going to run it up through the second loop that's on the stake. Then you're going to place that over the chamfered end, but you need to get both loops over the top at the same time, almost like a loop-to-loop connection there, so that the working end loop is underneath this one, so that as this moves, it removes the other stick, or removes the other loop, like this. So that when this goes under tension, everything is held in place very, very loosely here, and any tension that gets put on this pulls it off. Okay? So we're going to set that one more time. We're going to bring everything down, and we're going to take our first stick, and we're going to capture our trigger stick, capture this and capture this, and that creates our toggle. We're going to make sure that our 45 is turned to the top. Then we're going to come underneath this loop and over that 45, making sure that we capture both of those loops just like that. The sensitivity of this can be adjusted a little bit by sliding this closer to that 45. Now, again, this working end here is going to either a snare that's set on the trail and a couple Y sticks so that when it's pulled, it sets it off. It could be a fishing line going out so that when the fish or turtle or whatever grabs it, pulls on it, it sets it off. Or it could be a trip line that when somebody walks into it, it sets it off. It's a very simple trigger system that takes very little tools, knots, or anything like that to get it done. Most of it can be done with simple overhand knots very easily and one stick. Okay folks, that was just a real simple one stick and loop trap trigger. Again, the first I saw this was from Ron Hood years ago. I've always kind of kept it in my toolbox. It's a very simplistic trap to set. You don't have to carve a bunch of components or mess around. The only issues you have with this is you've got to have a stake in the ground and you're going to have some type of a spring pole device. But that's really no different than a lot of other traps out there. So it is a very simplistic trap to set a lot of if you've got good place in the trail to do that, or if you're fishing along a bank where you can put multiple spring poles along the bank without having to carve a bunch of different sticks, find forks, things like that. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Make sure that you click the subscribe button and click the notification bell and click all notifications so that you're getting notified when I make new videos. I'm trying to do it as quickly as possible in between my travel. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.